you have basically one job. Where's the? Will you get us some coffee, please? That's better. Thanks, Pika. Sheesh. He's the executive producer. He's not. He can't touch buttons. Never. Don't. No. No touching buttons. But you can always make sure that we have some coffee for our comics coffee table. 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern daily. Join us as we gab about our hobby, about one of our favorite things to do. We love comic books here. It's true. I do. Don't you? If you love comic books as much as I do, then you are in the right place at the right time. 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern daily. Yeah, we take a break together. We leave the real world's problems over there just for a few minutes in our busy days. We take our minds off of our minds and we take a break. You deserve a break. You should get a break. Negotiate a break with your boss if you don't have one. Negotiate one with your partner, with your kids, with the people, your caretakers, or the people that you're taking care of. Take a break just for a couple of minutes in the day and then get back to your problems. Get back to your job. Run these problems and don't let them run you. Run these challenges and don't let these challenges run you. Run your anger and don't let your anger run you. Run your kitchen and don't let your kitchen run you. That's something to live by. In my humble opinion, it's hard-earned wisdom. Let me clear my throat. Yeah. Welcome to it. We are here at this Comics Coffee table. What? Read the show notes. Well, this is my executive producer, a Pikachu. He makes copious amounts of show notes. And as all things, make a list of things to do as part of your show notes. And when they're done, scratch them off. That's that, yeah. I scratched off 2 more things. I'm about to scratch off another one. And keep writing things down. Make sure there's space on your show notes to put new ideas. Make sure, you can use more than one page. You can use, I'm old school. I use paper and a pen. I mean, that's what works for me. I mean, I love Legal Pad. I love Blue Biro and Blue Ink. I like Blue Ink. That I always have. I don't know why. And I like ballpoint pen, medium ballpoint pens. Not fine, not, wet ink, that I want a ballpoint pen. I want a medium blue ink ballpoint pen. That's Pika's job. Pika knows. And gets us the proper supplies. That goes a long way. Come on. How many office people are out there watching us right now? What don't you have a preference on what you like? And if somebody touches your stuff too, be like, don't you have your own pen? Listen, Fred. You use Bic Biro, and I use the fine Uniball black ink. You know what I mean? Blue Biro is you. Yes, Sully, that's you. That's me. And then you're you, and welcome. I'm so appreciative and blessed and grateful that you are here with us today at our comics coffee table. What are you drinking today? Pull up a chair, grab a cuppa, whatever it is you're shoving under your nose today there. Pal, sizzle chest, turkey pockets, tough guy, strongman, or however you identify with in this grand spectrum of humanity we got going on here in the 21st century. Cheers to you. Pre-recorded, but live before a studio audience of my stuffed animals from Boston studios. It's true. It's the Comics Coffee Table. My friends and I would always meet up at the coffee table, and we would just, kick back, have a cuppa, and catch each other up, shoot the breeze. And on this coffee table would always be a stack of books and a stack of music. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's music. Yeah, those are compact discs. A stack of movies. It would always be a stack of movies. Movies. I love movies. I love physical media. A stack of video games. I love the Dragon Ball video games. I don't really play video games much anymore. The last 2 games I pretty much checked out on were a couple of years ago, right after lockdown, because video games were a great part to keep company during lockdown. I'm not a big gamer, but I do love video games, and I do love my video game system. I'm a PS4 person. I've been PS1, PS2. I skipped the 3 and I went to 4. I don't play Nintendo much. I don't play Dreamcast. I did have a Sega Genesis, but my first video game was the Atari 2600. My version was the Atari 800 XL home computer, which had the same joystick, and but he had a full QWERTY to play Star Raiders with, which was probably the best part of that. And my best friend could play, we could switch off between pilot and comm. So someone would be on the QWERTY, you know what I mean, doing, and someone would be piloting the ship. So it's a 1-player game, but it ended up being a really cool 2-player game, an 11 and a 10-year-old kid in 1983. And you know what I mean? When that kind of stuff was peak. I hope that stuff's always peak with all players, with all people, everywhere in the spectrum. Seriously. Oh, man. I just want to enjoy this stuff. I hope, and there's a lot to enjoy. This show is about books. It's about publications. Because also on this coffee table would be a stack of comic books along with all of those aforementioned things, an overflowing ashtray, last night's bottle of beer with 1 swig left in it. Sully was here the night before if you're stepping on a bottle cap on your way to the bathroom in the morning. Oops, that was me. Yeah, I own that. Indeed. Great cup of coffee. But the point and goal of the show, hopefully, is to reinvigorate and inspire into you a need, a want, a desire to get your ass out of that seat and back to your local comic book shop, your LCS. And if you don't have a local comic book shop within distance, we can suggest one right here on this very channel. Check out the description. Talk to Yule Carter of Fantastic Comics in Berkeley, California, and he could be your LCS as well. I mean, it's just standard mail rates and international rates will apply. And hit him up. That's between you guys. And but if you don't have an LCS, there's an LCS right here on this show. A local comic book shop, a mom and pop brick and mortar shop that needs your business. I'm not just getting my weekly comic books there. I'm playing a longer game. The point of the show is to literally rebag, rebox, and reboard, rebox my entire collection. It's been about 7 or 8 long boxes I've accumulated since I came back to comics in 2001 and really started earnestly going weekly again for, in about 2003-04. And that then Wednesdays became sacred to me once again. And I had just come back from a break. I stopped about X-Men Onslaught in the mid-90s. So I kind of missed the implosion and a lot of the Image stuff, and Grant Morrison's Justice League, and Warren Ellis doing Wildstorm, doing Stormwatch. I caught up on all that stuff. And it was a relatively short window if you look back at it in hindsight. It was only about 5 or 6 years that I was on hiatus. But all my long boxes are that accumulation, and I've lost a lot of comic books too along the way. We all do. It's funny the way that you lend them out, you move out somewhere. You know what I mean? Just like where did my issue of Spaceman 1 go? Well, we found that it was in a different box, so hopefully they'll come back to you, and they can always come back to you too. Part of being a Bronze Age baby and a really enthused fan of going to the local comic book shops are back bins and getting comics that I read and owned as a small person, as a kid, specifically between 8 and 18, and I'm in the Bronze Age and the Copper Age too. To be honest with you, I was a Copper Age teenager. Yeah, I mean seriously, that was a good. Batman '89 was like what? That was my sophomore year in high school, and I was bat crazy, buying all that stuff. That was only what, like 3 years after Dark Knight Returns came out. Dude, yeah, formative years too. I went from 12, 13 to 16, 17. That's poof. That's a lot of growing there. That's a lot of stories that matter to young people. The stories that matter to young people that you keep all of your life. This never-ending fight between good and evil. This it shall be continued. The serial. These IPs. These superhero universes. These fictional places. I love it. Cheers. Sláinte. That's my anti-rant. I'm gonna maybe that's that's a good idea. Let's do it. Make room on your list for new shit. Weekly anti-rant. I left spaces so I can do it once a week. Let's just do it once a week. Friday. How's that? Friday. Weekly anti-rant. I will do an anti-rant every Friday to counter the forces, not to fight the forces of outrage. I respect their voices. I am one of them. I'm just their peaceful older brother, or I have a different way. There were 7 samurai. They were all different. That's right. Weekly. Yeah, why not? An anti-rant. I mean, go out and buy yourself a comic book that you love. If you're going to spend $20 on a comic book, well, hopefully it's X-Men 170, Uncanny X-Men 170, like I did. And it's worth it. And it's like only a real collector will be able to point out, like, wow, you shouldn't have paid $20 for that. Yeah, no. But what's it worth to you? And also, it seems like everything in the back issue bin is at the 9.2 near mint price at my LCS's back. Not the floor bins, not the $2 bins. I should be looking more. If I got to make more time to look in those back bins. Seriously. But when you're looking at the top, the table bins. That is the premier stuff. But every price in there is usually. I'm verifying this when I get home with the Overstreet Price guide. This is a valuable part of my collection. My parents bought this for me last Christmas. These 2 books have been really influential this year, helping me become a more curated collector, I guess, mentally. I know what to look for. I know I know how to better grade comics. I know what a 9.2 should look like. And I know when I get it home and open it up, I'm like, this is not a 9.2, and I paid a 9.2 price for this. I got to get better at asking, can I open this up and look at this? And do you have the power to negotiate its price? I got to remember this. We can really flex our muscles there at the local comic book shop. If I can point out a couple of dings, and I'd be like, hey, I can talk you down to an 8.0 on this, can't I? And that's a difference of a couple of bucks. Seriously. It's just like, it's not that I collect for that value, but there's a value for me to try to be a better negotiator in anything in this world. And the comic book shop seems like such, I've been wasting opportunities to fine tune my negotiation skills. How am I supposed to want to spend $20 on this? Look at this corner. Look at this spine. You know what I mean? Ha ha! Huzzah! Yeah. So Friday. Weekly anti-rant. Why not? Home of the anti-rant. Home of the weekly anti-rant. Yeah, seriously, yeah. There are your Fridays. Let's do it. Yeah. That's how content's made too, kids. I didn't make this up. I am actually flying by the pants of my seat. I'm lucky to have an executive producer. You know what I mean? Most of us are not. You know what I mean? I'm just the talent. I got a studio audience. I got a cameraman, lighting, and boom mic operator, and an executive producer. I'm the talent. this is all you need to make a YouTube show about something you love. Do it. Do it. That's right. Yeah, ding. Awesome. Yay. How the show grows. But yeah, my parents gave me these 2 books for Christmas last year. This season is actually dedicated to my parents. I love you. Thank you so much for these wonderful publications. This was signed by Billy Tucci, the artist. This is Miss Fury. She's a golden age comic book character, not the Catwoman of Batman. This is Miss Fury. It's a different character. And that's Billy Tucci. He signed that for me. I'm very blessed and grateful to have met him and Debbie Tucci, and I hope to meet them again one day. That would be they're good comic books people. Very solid. Salt of the earth. Love them. Indeed. What wasn't this supposed to be about comic books, Ollie? Well, it's Friday. We're celebrating. We talk about comic books. So yeah, so I'm rebagging, reboarding, and reboxing my entire collection. This is what we're looking at right now. It's the mostly Marvel long box. So yeah, see the corners blown out. There's stains. This is at least a 15-year-old box with if it's 20. Holy shit! House of M #1, dudes. Ain't this worth something? And would this be worth it? It's been in the box. It's been in a bag, and it's been in a board. I usually never, ever. Okay, it's mostly Marvel. Yeah. So it lives up to its name. It's mostly Marvel. Oh, good. We're gonna finally get to talk about Ultimate Spider-Man. I can talk about Ultimate Spider-Man all day. I love Ultimate. I loved the early Ultimates. Oh, Paul Jenkins. This is one of the best single issues of Spider-Man I ever read. Look, it's Amazing Spider-Girl #0. You know I'm a sucker for a 0 issue. Let's talk a little bit. Yeah, let's get to that. But yeah, so this is an almost full long box. Oh. We actually cleared out some space. We must have cleared out some space earlier. Alrighty. Oh, so this is a little more than half full long box now. And yeah, I've been moving stuff around. Oof. We'll get to that. And I'm moving these contents into short boxes. And I'm getting my supplies. My bags, my boards, and my boxes. That's why it's important to get back to your local comic book shop. I need supplies for all of this. I got boards, my acid-free boards. I get snugs, comic book bags, and I get my boxes. I'm getting my supplies at my local comic book shop. When you fold up a box, this is how big it is compared to. Here you go. That's a long box versus a short box. If you were wondering. And yeah, so these are considerably smaller, more manageable. They can fit in a regular closet too in a different way. I can play Tetris with these things. Yeah, there's more of them, and it's been an expense to there's probably. It's not cheap. I mean, the bags are $6.99. This was $4.95, but this was from maybe a decade ago. You could maybe so, maybe not. Was it For This My Life? I saw it. And but this is more recently. This is $6.99. The short box was $7.99. And the brick of comic book bags. I think this went for $14.99, and I could be getting all of these so much cheaper at Amazon on my online supply chain, or if I went to big box stores. I don't go to big box stores, but I do have comic book shops, and they need our business, and so it's just not enough for me to be buying floppies every Wednesday. I need to be getting my supplies there. Yeah. And my comic book shop is important to me, and I love the staff, and I have more than one local comic book shop. I now have two. I go to Kamikaze in Davis Square, Somerville, Massachusetts, and if they don't have something, I will. From Davis Square, it's very easy and only a few minutes away. I can hop on one of two buses and get my ass to Arlington Center and go to the Magic Dragon, and they'll have a variant cover that will entice me. I can be a sucker for a variant cover, and they've a couple. Those guys, they're pretty charming. As comic book guys go. I got into a really good conversation. There was a young person there, a young woman in her early 30s, and she was talking. She's one of us, dude, and she's talking to the comic book dude. Both of the two of them, and they're more of my age and peers of mine, the Bronze Age babies, Copper Age babies. And not only is they're playing Raiders of the Lost Ark in the background, and they even point out, it's a special edition. It was like when Indy lashes himself to the U-boat to hold on in Act 3 at the end, and he doesn't lash himself on with his whip anymore. They were like, that get cut out. That's perfectly great geek talk at a local comic book shop, huh? So, let's get to it. And she's a beautiful young woman, and one of us, comic book fan. And she's given the guy her Insta address where she's doing her own art on a tablet, and she's saying, and it's her feminist slant about superheroes. And of course, because she's like a very early, late teen or early 20 something, American girl in the Cambridge area of Boston, and that is the fandom. The torch is passed, and girls read comics, and girls, are really taught to be, very oh hey, the world is yours, now more than ever. I think that's I'm for women, moms, grandmoms, sisters, cousins, daughters, co-workers, neighbors, public servants, throughout history. Yeah, huzzah to ladies. But she actually was picking out. It was one of those things I'm always telling you about. You go to your local comic book shop and you grow some balls or grow some eggs. It just. It is a safe space. The worst they can do is kind of dismiss you. That's happened before, but whatever. But especially with talking to other people, but young women or people of the opposite gender, and it just we ended up having a great comic book shop style conversation in a local comic book shop. And I had, at the end of it, I was like, I have to hustle. It was been 15 minutes. We were chatting, the three of us, talking about Spider-Man. I went up to her and I was like, hey, what do you got in your stack this week? What are you buying? May I ask you? And I framed it like that because, that's just, be for real, And she's like, oh, I'm buying some Spider-Man and this and that. And old stuff, like bronzy, copper agey stuff, early, modern age Spider-Man. 80s, 90s stuff, not just because Spider-Man goes all the way back to 63, 62. And so there's a whole, in every era of Spider-Man is a representation of pop culture and the sign of the times. And it's great. Spider-Man's business is a really ironic tree trunk. Paper is made from trees. Trees have rings when they grow older, and so does Spider-Man. So does all of these fabulous worlds we inhabit when we jump into a costume. This is the Amazing Spider-Girl #0. I love it. Hey, look. Ugh. I hate New York sports teams, but I love New Yorkers because I'm from Boston. They're our rival. It's not a bad, it's not real hate. It's sports hate. The Greeks have a few different kind of words for love. Not just eros, which is physical love, but is agape, storge, philia, brotherly love, universal love, the love and compassion you feel for your neighbors. And Eros is physical love, you know what I mean? And that's just one of the loves. And shouldn't dislike and hate have its own different words too? At this point, do we stop with the 21st, the 20? We need 21st century words in a lexicon, you know? Yeah, you carpetbaggers, you. Tippecanoe and Tyler too. Oh, let's get you a bag. Let's get you a board. Oh, permission to come aboard, Captain. All right, figure that one out. These are the older ones. So yeah, these are already a decade old. And so, are they flimsier? This came right out of the bag of bags. But does freshness count with your snug? Is what I'm asking. We should do more about snugs. These feel so weird next to the other ones. Let's see. We got 2 bags. Let's do a blind taste test. No, it's not blind because you can see what's going on. Pika, this is a great idea for a show. All right, this is the newer one. This is the $6.99. This is a current comic bag. It doesn't have a maker's mark on the front. Signature. It's from Ultra Pro. Okay, that's good because this is a fair comparison. All right, this is a bag of Ultra Pros, 100% acid free, stores current size comics, and there's 100 in here. I paid $6.99 for this. This is the Ultra Pro current comic book bag, 100% acid free. This I bought at $4.95, probably a decade ago. This is the same thing. So this is the newer one. This is the older one. The newer one has a different tactility to it. This feels like it's more brittle. This one feels more smooth in a way. Can you hear that? It has got more crackle to it because I think it's like, does freshness matter when it comes to your snugs? Well, technically, yes, sure. These old bags have that's got at least a decade of entropy on it. But how old are these bags when we buy them? And if they advise you, if they're not, these are not Mylars. These are polypropylene. And it's taken me 2 years of comic book YouTubing to be able to enunciate that word correctly, polypropylene. Dude, I stumble over words. Don't be afraid to stumble over words. It's fun. You may fold it into your bit, And here we go. I love comic books. This is a good fate for a comic book. This was a $1.99 comic book back in the day. It was an issue 0. And there's not much original art story in it. It's basically one of those info bomb ones. Oh, but let's look this up, man. Well, we don't have to look this one up, but we're just going to look at this comic book. This was a $2.99 comic book. I remember where I bought this. I bought this at Comicopia in Kenmore Square. It's another comic book shop. Yeah, but it's in downtown Boston, and I think it's maybe downtown. It's not even downtown Boston. Kenmore Square is not in downtown. It's adjacent to downtown via the ComAv Mall. You know what I mean? I wouldn't consider Kenmore Square downtown Boston. I wouldn't. Would you? Downtown Boston used to have a comic book shop. My first real comic book shop, Superhero Universe 3. It was on the corner of Winter and Washington Streets in the early 80s, in the second floor on the corner. Beautiful view of the downtown crossing area. And the major stores were there, Filene's and Jordan Marsh, the major department stores. And there was a very large subway station underneath, and the McDonald's was there, and Wendy's was there, and there was a Woolworths was there, and it was called Downtown Crossing. It's where all the shopping was, and so. But this is I got this at Comicopia, yeah, in Kenmore Square. Hey, look, junk food, or it's actually breakfast cereal. June of 2005. Ain't that right, huh? Spectacular Spider-Man. Probably volume 2? Maybe volume 3. But yeah, written by Paul Jenkins. Art by Mark Buckingham. Color art by Disraeli. You don't hear, he did a lot of work with Warren Ellis. So he was kind of one of these, you could get these big names that just pop up in comics. They're here and gone. You know what I mean? Don't you know you're a superstar? After his parents died in a plane crash, young Peter Parker went to live with his beloved Aunt May and Uncle Ben. Although he suffered the ridicule of his classmates, Peter displayed a strong aptitude for learning, especially at the science, at the demonstration on radiation, tragedy. He still mourns the death of his first love. Peter is now married to the beautiful Mary Jane Watson. I think this was because it was the final issue of the series. Therefore, it was Paul Jenkins' last Spider-Man story. And it starts off... Oh, God, I haven't opened this in years. I'm one of the biggest Calvin and Hobbes fans in the world. And this starts off aping a newspaper strip in Sunday Funny. The most popular of its of its time as well. And it's not Calvin and Hobbes, it's Little Pete and Uncle Ben. This is wonderful. And this is why it's wonderful to be a comic book fan and to have these kind of moments. And look, a video game ad. I had a Game Boy and a Game Boy Color. No, Game Boy Advance. And I almost got the DS. I'm fascinated with the handhelds. I'm such a chicken to invest in one. I would love to get a Nintendo Switch because of the compatibility with the home system. I mean, and a buddy of mine his kid's got a Switch that I don't think he touches anymore. So we can get some racing going on Switch, like Mario Kart. Would you tune in for a Mario Kart broadcast? It's hard to, I would just want to like fill me and my, those two, maybe three, and just like old days and broadcast that out. And not as like I don't know what I'm talking about, but that would be fun. That would be a fun show. I'm there for that. I once said no, we all need a Mario Kart and to swear at each other for a good half an hour. Seriously, like, you cut me off, you son. There's nothing. Playing video games with friends, it's and swearing at each other, and that's part of the coffee table. But this is just great. It's a Christmas issue, apparently, or winter, and that's just wonderful. Because the snowman gag was a big part of Calvin and Hobbes. Star Wars. Plug it in and play. Wow. I wonder if something like that would still work. You get it pretty cheap. But we talk about, not a lot of, we talk about, in outrage circles, we talk about just blah blah in comics. And not only, and especially when someone's identity fits into that as a negative, too. They can, just, that's the reason why the blah blah in the comic sucks. Because the identity of the person seems to have all the trappings of, modernity. And they do. These are, concerted efforts to diversify the talent in the bullpen. You have an opportunity as an editor to do that, I guess. You got a new editor-in-chief, and you have orders from the people, you look at this. I bet you if we tried having a more diverse storyteller unit that will sell more books to a diverse audience. It didn't work. Just saying, I mean, it's not the fault of the diversity of the creators, or the intentions of the buyers. It's just tonally it's like kind of like incompatible. I keep coming back to like McDonald's versus like a steak. All right, and it would be like if you went to McDonald's and they changed the menu around and you just like, I just want a Big Mac and I just want a chicken nugget Happy Meal for my kid because I know he'll eat the whole thing. You know what I mean? He's got to eat because he's getting fucking bratty, and the little toy is gonna make him happy. But I just want a Big Mac and a large fries. Why can't I get a Big Mac? Well, you can still get a Big Mac and a large fries and get your kids Happy Meal at McDonald's. And there's just a whole bunch of new menu stuff. Full Metal Alchemist. That's an anime I have not gotten to yet. I was at a con last year and I was like, is that an Iron Man variant? And Brian was like, no, that's Full Metal Alchemist. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But yeah, this was cutesy-utesy and throwbacky. And it's just, nothing really happens. It's Peter, basically talking to himself. But he's not talking to himself. I don't talk to myself either. This is my grandfather, my Uncle Ben, Joseph O'Sullivan. I had this relationship with the same one. I was an only child. You know what I mean? And this was my father figure. And Uncle Ben is Peter Parker's father figure. So he's having this imaginary conversation with his, I have this conversation daily as well with my grandpa. Yeah. Uncle Ben. Motor City Comic Con. Who's the guests? Catherine Bach, Robert Beltran, David Carradine, Joyce DeWitt, Hacksaw, Jim Duggan, Elvira, Ernie Hudson, Donnie Most, Tom Savini, Dwight Schultz, Brett Spiner, Tom Sullivan, Nana Visitor, and many, many more. Who's coming? Terry Austin, Guy Davis, Steve Englehart. Remember, this is from 2005. Wow, this is almost a 20-year-old funny. Billy Tucci, ladies and gentlemen, he's been in the game for a while. He's a great guy. Wow. I had this, the amazing 40 Years of Amazing Spider-Man on CD-ROM. I lent that out. I never got it back. That's my fault. It was a PDF of every issue of Spider-Man, a scan of them up to a certain time. That's irreplaceable. I mean, but I read them, and I got a really good feel for my Spider-Man because that's a regret. I wish I had that. Maybe I can get that again, cheap. I'll look into that because of how optical drives are so not frowned upon. I have an optical drive on my hard drive. It's like a DVD writer. I think it's a Blu-ray writer, and I don't know. But I definitely know it's a DVD burner. I'm from an age where, yeah, CD burners are the shit. You need one. I have a PS4. That's my Blu-ray player, my DVD player. I have a DVD player in the living room. I'm thinking about upgrading to 4K. I got a 4K TV. And why don't I have a 4K player? And I just saw an all regions one, so that I can spread out. I can get that box set of Blake 7. I want to get Das Boot, the original German TV series. The Das Boot movie that we got, that was an edit of like a 3-hour edit of a television of a miniseries. What do I want? I want the TV series I've never seen. Seriously, to get out of region, yeah. I mean, it's expensive, but I deserve it because I'm a cinemaphile. I'm a movie file. I have a huge DVD and Blu-ray collection. I can go 4K, shouldn't I? I deserve it. Let me know, and I deserve to get a new copy of this. I mean, maybe it's on DVD now. I mean, Blu-ray, and it's like less discs. That would be cool. Oh, and Aunt May, and at the end of it, Aunt May sees that they're making snow angels still, and that Peter's already been there, and that they left. Isn't that sweet? I'm getting a little emotional. Oh, that they may. Aw. Aw. And it's got a nice ending. And that's it. Aw. That's the emotional. Yeah, and people. That's fiction. It's a visceral reaction. That's an emotional reaction. I mean, comic book creators, you want to block people on Twitter for ideology because you want to seem some kind of tough guy, good guy. You think you're, and that's what matters most. This is what matters most. And that emotional connection the reader has with this history and this grand character, Peter Parker, the Spider-Man. And in my humble opinion, this character is not new. I mean, one of my this is an original thought. I've never heard this anywhere. I only came to this conclusion after reading a book about opera and how to get a, it was a college course on like Opera 101, the history of opera. It was this maybe like an 8-hour long college lecture I got off of Audible. I read a lot of audiobooks. And Figaro of Verona, the factotum, the young man that did everything in the town and everyone went to for trouble. Peter Parker is Figaro of Verona. He's an archetypical character. You wonder why Peter Parker has stick-to-itiveness and is enduring, and that when people don't like it when things change, he's an ancient character. It's just in a different set of clothing. Instead of Verona, you're in Manhattan. It's wonderful. If you know your art history, you can see the fingerprints from where this all came from. And we're gonna wrap this up, but let's look up the value of this comic book. All right, we're gonna look at this comic book real quick. This is House of M, #1. Is it the first appearance of Layla Miller? That's what makes it a key issue? I don't know. And thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sticking around so long. GHHEHOU. Howdy Doody, Howard the Duck. House of Secrets, House of X. $6. House of X. House of M. Shit. House of Mystery, House of M. House of M. House of M. Bendis Copiel, $5. So yeah. Alright. August 2005. This is House of M, written by Brian Michael Bendis, the hottest hand back then at 2005 in the Marvel bullpen. Drawn by Oliver Copiel. We get a little bit of spine crack. But this comic book is a rarity in my collection. This has had a bag and a board the entire time. This has been in a bag and a board for 18 years. Ooh. Man-Thing. It's the Marvel's swamp response to beautiful Oliver Copiel art and interesting story. We get the info dump page. Here's our indicia. Publisher is Dan Buckley. The EIC is Joe Quesada. The editor is Tom Brevoort, who's still an editor there. Writer, Brian Michael Bendis. Penciler, Olivier Copiel. Inker, Tim Townsend. Chris Eliopoulos on the lettering, who's also one heck of an artist, a writer himself. I mean, geez, he's, previously in Uncanny X-Men. Previously in the Avengers. Yeah, and this follows the Avengers disassembled storyline that Bendis was doing. This was a pretty big event comic book because it resets reality. And so once we've reset reality, we have to come back to this Marvel 616. And in the wake of of reclaiming the your universe, there are changes, such as before this, Clint Barton, the Hawkeye, also Ronin. No, not Ronin. He wasn't Ronin yet. He was Ronin when he came back. Hawkeye dies, and so when Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, resets the universe, we all know Wanda now, huh? Well, WandaVision. This is like, let's look at it. The famous. Where's the famous line? No more mutants, Daddy. Where is it? Is it in this one? And this was during the Astonishing X-Men age as well, that Joss Whedon was writing. In a return to costumes and superheroics after the 4-year Grant Morrison run from 2000 to 2001 to 2005. So this is like really hits on all cylinders. Over on X-Men, you're being written by Buffy the Vampire Slayer's very own Joss Whedon, and who ended up doing a really awesome run. I caught up with the Astonishing X-Men with art by John Cassaday. I caught up with that as a motion comic online because I was bored one day. I couldn't be bothered with it. But then I read it and I was like really satisfied, and really it was like I was just so high up on the Grant Morrison stuff. Where does she say no more mutants, Daddy? Is it in the front? But this is was this after that was said? Gamefly. Blockbuster Video. They rented games. And then Peter Parker wakes up. He notices something. The universe has changed. And then he wakes up. What is that onomatopoeia? It's great because it's all kind of show, don't tell. The universe has changed. And that's House of M, #1, huh? Does it need a new bag? Yeah, it does, because this one's ripped. New bag, new board. Especially the board, because the board has not been changed in 18 years. And so, let's get, because the board is acid-free and it absorbs and neutralizes acids that are forming in the magazine. But that's a lot of that has to do with the older the paper, the more that's apt to happen. We gotta wrap this up. Oh gosh, I am so sorry. Happy Friday! Thanks for sticking around for so long. I just love talking about comic books. And to end that, I mean, okay, at the Magic Dragon last week, there's this 20-year-old girl, and she's picking up old Spideys. And I'm like, I asked the guy in front of her, and I was like, do you think that the comic book guy, I asked him in front of her as like, part of the question, like, would you suggest to a young Spider-Man fan, female Spider-Man fan, would you suggest Ultimate Spider-Man by Brian Michael Bendis? Because I would. And then, because that is just the fuel that you need to incite conversation. I mean, I love Ultimate Spider-Man. We're going to talk about Ultimate Spider-Man, but I love Ultimate Spider-Man. We're going to talk about Ultimate Spider-Man some more, but I was really serious about Ultimate Spider-Man and just being, I think you're gonna. And she hadn't heard of it, but she knew about Miles and about the movie. And I was like, that's the same story. That's what kind of happens to Peter. They did a great job in the first, Miles Morales movie there. Was that Across the Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse? I don't know I can't keep track of the names, but darn, yeah. Just went on and on. But I was like, yeah, we'll check. You should check. I got to suggest to a young Spider-Man fan, check out Ultimate Spider-Man. It's from early 2000s by Brian Michael Bendis, done art by Mark Bagley, and I really feel that Art T. Bear was the best part of that, that earliest run. That there's a huge difference. The art shifted when Scott Hanna took over. Scott Hanna is a great anchor, but I mean, just the iconic look of early Ultimate Spider-Man, that was the Spider-Man. And I told her, this is the Spider-Man that you probably grew up with everywhere. Because that particular Spider-Man was on all the Spider-Man marketing. I worked in a pre-K child care center for a year as the house chef. And it was infants, toddlers, and pre-K. And all the Spider-Man stuff, and this was like early 20th century, like the mid-aughts. All of that Spider-Man stuff had was definitely that Mark Bagley, Art T. Bear art from Ultimate. And it was just, so it was great to be able to suggest to a new Spider-Man, a new webhead, a fellow webhead. And it doesn't, it just, that was a nice moment, a comic book shop style moment. And it was a wonderful conversation. And I'm glad I got to share that story with you guys here today and talk about Spider-Man comic books. That, if you can, try to find Ultimate Spider-Man, number 27 by Paul Jenkins, from 2005. This is a gem. You saw that happen, right? I got really emotional. That's the power of a good story. And I'm serious about that. Peter Parker, Figaro. Figaro, Figaro, Figaro! Opera. Enduring character archetypes. I made that up. I've never heard that anywhere else. Thank you so very much for tuning in today. We've been talking about comic books, and we're going to talk about comic books every day for the rest of the year. So tune in tomorrow, 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern, and we'll find out who we're talking about when we turn the page tomorrow. Please like and subscribe. I would love it. If you put on those notifications, ring that bell, smash that like button, and subscribe. We're a small channel, and we're still growing. And we're going to be as positive as we can be, and we really love this stuff. Thank you so very much for sharing the love. Pay it forward. We make cooking videos, we make spirituality videos, and yeah, just pay the love forward and keep coming back. Thank you so very much. God bless. Namaste. Good luck. We will see you again in those funny pages. Ciao. Bye-bye.